Hello. Where's the voice coming from? Hello, everybody. Is this on? Is it? Oh, yay. We got over our first technical obstacle of the day. That's exciting. Hi, everyone. I am Courtney Stanley. How many people have I met before in this room? Because I definitely, yay, I see some familiar faces, and I can't always spot everyone, so it's great to see you all. So I'm really not surprised that this is a super packed room, because we have had so many opportunities to innovate, but also push through really painful, sticky moments, especially when it comes to tech and production over this past 2 years. How many would agree with that? Yes, pat yourselves on the back, give yourself some applause, because it's been a stressful time. So, my name's Courtney Stanley. I am actually a full-time hybrid, I feel like I should just specify with that now, hybrid speaker, keynote speaker, and hybrid event MC. But I also have a background in event production and in event technology. So this is gonna be a really interesting topic that I don't get the opportunity to speak on a lot about, and I'm really excited to be here today. How many of you have planned and executed a hybrid event? I love that. How many have not? How many have more coming up? Okay, so the reason why I love that we have so many experts in the room today is because I want to talk about those moments of failure where we have just made missteps. And this presentation today, Hybrid Events, The Lies We Tell Ourselves, is all about just giving you a little bit of a checklist to make sure that you're able to avoid certain missteps in your hybrid event planning process, because it's complicated. How many people would agree with that? Yes, it's very complicated. So before we get into it, I'm just curious, how many of you, by show of hands, would consider yourself an introvert? And then there are okay, so literally like half of the people halfway raised their hands, which is great because you're avoiding the spotlight to be shown on you. Kudos to you introverts who returned to probably what's one of the first events that you have been at in a year. And I just encourage you to take that time that you need to reset and just rest throughout this really busy week. And that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about today, but I'm an introvert, so I'm giving that advice to myself. Okay, so we're gonna walk through the lies we tell ourselves with hybrid. The first being that not every platform does the same thing. It doesn't have the same engagement features. How many of you have tried to use different hybrid platforms for your events? They're not the same, right? No, they do. They offer different things, but what's really important is that you're creating some sort of connection between the virtual audience and the in-person audience. We've been talking about how hybrid really is 2 separate events. That's kind of the backdoor conversation that's happening. It requires twice the work, twice the staff, everything just has doubled and created so much work. But what we want to remember is that there are platforms that actually help us put them together in a way that's really cohesive. So one tip that I want you to consider if you haven't already is, do you have a mobile app for your on-site attendees? And is there a desktop version that your virtual attendees can also use? You want to create opportunities for them to actually interact with each other. You don't want to create FOMO. And this is probably the only time that I will say this. You don't want to create FOMO for attendees that are in different spaces. So I attended a hybrid event last year, and it was my first one just in the audience as somebody showing up to enjoy the content. And there really were no opportunities for us to engage with the people on site. And I loved that I could witness the experience, but I wasn't engaged in the experience. And I felt a little bit sad. Like, it was great to see them. It was nostalgic. You could see people walking around in the hallways, but it created so much FOMO that I felt like I actually was missing out just by being able to see it, but not participate. So get to know the different platforms. Find out if they have opportunities for you to connect those 2 audiences. The second misstep to avoid is testing. When you think of testing, when you have to test your hybrid event, what does that mean to you? Just shout it out. What are you testing? Okay, literally everything. Yes, that is the correct answer. Literally everything. So when you have a hybrid event, you still need to be testing things like lighting and sound for a virtual audience. So, we show up and it's easy to test things on site. We're making sure the speakers feel good, but are we actually stepping into the shoes of the person on the other side of that screen that's not there? Can they see the speaker? Can they hear the speaker? Are the polls actually working for them? The worst thing that you can do is invite somebody from the virtual world into your in-person world, and they can't actually do, see, hear, or engage with anything. So practice testing every single feature as if you were stepping into the shoes of somebody who's not there. Next tip. Don't assume that the venue can handle the bandwidth for your event. By show of hands, has anybody had issues with that, with your hybrid events? Yes, and it's so frustrating because it really can completely deteriorate the experience for people who aren't there and people who are there. So understanding the venue's capabilities, making sure that they can actually stream out multiple sessions that are happening at one time, making sure that the people who are on site can actually connect to that network, ask those questions. And if you don't know what to ask friends in the industry what to ask, or ask the teams on site at the venue, what questions should I be asking? This is the number of people that we're going to have on site. These are the number of sessions we're streaming. Have those numbers in hand. It's also not safe to assume that everybody wants the same experience. So your virtual attendees don't necessarily want the same type of experience as your in-person attendees, but it's important to know what that actually means. Do they want to be, and we'll get into content in a little bit here, but do they want to be sitting for an hour at their desk watching somebody from across the room be zoomed in, zoomed out, zoomed in, zoomed out? Maybe, maybe not. But it's important to write your content strategy in a way that empathizes for both audiences. Now, I love this point because I am a hybrid MC, virtual and in person. Don't skip out on this. You guys, come on. And I see some fist pumping happening in the corner here. Are you an MC too? Yeah, you're an MC too. Yeah. Yoo-hoo, promotion. So you don't want to skip out on an MC. This is your best advocate for your virtual audience. They're the ones who are going to be seeing the chatter, the needs, the question, the feedback, the polls of hundreds or thousands of people who you can't actually see and hear in person. This is the one who's going to help them feel included and seen and heard. And those are the most important things that people actually want when they attend events. They want to feel like they're part of it. They're not just sitting on the outside looking in. Get a really, really great MC. Now, let's talk a little bit about promotion. How many of you, when you planned your hybrid events, sent the same email messages to everybody, all registrants, regardless of virtual or in-person? Okay, so I know some people are unwilling to admit this, and that's okay. This is room for growth. This is room to change. But a lot of people were saying, no, I definitely didn't make that mistake, which is great. So it's also important when you're thinking about your promotional strategy to think about what is actually going to engage and interest and entice each audience. This is where, yes, we have to look at this experience as two different types of events. You're not going to send out the same message for people who are arriving on site to the same people who are setting their alarm clock 5 minutes before the session starts and showing up in their pajamas. It's just a different experience. So if you haven't created a different promotional strategy for each audience, that is really important. Y'all, your speakers are not going to be okay. I'm just going to put that out there. If you hybrid events are new. They are. Yes, they've been around, but we haven't actually really utilized them to the fullest of their potential, which means, and I can say this from experience as being a speaker, your speakers probably don't have any experience with hybrid. So when they show up on site, they're expecting to deliver a presentation the same way they always would, which is in person. They're making eye contact with people at the tables. They're asking people in the room questions. You have to prepare your speakers to talk to two different audiences. Engage the virtual audience. Ask them questions. Get the polls from them. Make that part of the feedback strategy for that speaker. It's really important that you provide training for these particular people because your speakers can make or break attendance. If people show up and they're engaged and they're excited and they heard a great session, they're going to be hungry for more. But if they show up and they feel like they can't see the speaker, hear the speaker, they're not even in the room, that's going to deteriorate their experience. Should I just skip this slide? I feel like enough said at this point. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's not okay. This past year and a half has been really difficult for my planner friends, and I completely empathize and understand. It is critical that you get your teams and yourself training for the things to avoid, for the missteps, for the strategies that you could easily implement but just don't know about. You don't know what you don't know. And thank goodness our industry has been exceptional at creating different certifications and free education, and look to your member associations to find out what you don't know. But also, you're responsible for the success or failure of your production team, your AV staff. How well equipped is your AV staff? The production company or the company that's servicing the venue? How many hybrid events have they actually put together, and are they fully prepared? So knowing what questions to ask, educating yourself and your team, and giving you that grace and support that you need to be successful is so important. Now, I want to just touch on this briefly, but how many of you did the same agenda for your virtual audience and your in-person audience? Raise your hands, it's okay. We all learn. We learn as we go. Yeah, this is Truth Serum. This is a safe space. I bet there are more hands than that could have gone up, but thank you to the honest people in the room. Yeah, you have to shake it up. You've got to change it up. How many of you actually love sitting in a chair for 8 hours straight, staring at a screen? I knew we'd have one. You're a trooper, my friend. You're a true trooper. No, so we can't do that. Our overall objectives for the event is to engage people. It's to make them want to come back, to tell other people about how great the experience was. But I can't tell you how many events I saw or participated in where I would just sit there. Even if I was emceeing virtually or whatever I was doing in that capacity, my butt would go numb. I would actually be in pain. Like, it's not okay. We have to be willing to create a different content experience for the people who are not in the room. And that goes for speakers too. Our speakers can't be doing the same thing that they always did. If they're far away and they're drawing things on a board, or they're doing, they're workshopping with the audience in the room, that's not going to work either. We also have to be thinking about not just what the agenda looks like, but in those particular sessions, what does that experience look like? So having those conversations up front and really digging deeper into the engagement strategy that the speaker has is really, really important. How many of you are from Pacific Standard Time? Okay, so a good chunk. What about Central Standard? Eastern? Hello, East Coast. Good to see you here. I won't. Mountain Time. Can't pass over. It's just Anka. It's just you. International. Who came from overseas to be here? Let's give those people a hand. Yay! It's good to have you here. It is not fair to ask people to get up at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning to participate in an event. So it's really easy to create different opportunities for those people to join at times that actually work for them. Pre-record sessions, offer them at different times of day. For Q&As, ask your speaker to come on at 2 different times during the day so that they can engage the virtual audience after maybe they've had their in-person session. But don't forget about people who need their sleep, because we all need our sleep. Just a couple more things. Sponsorship is golden in hybrid. And I don't know if any of you have figured this out yet or you've tapped into it, but the analytics are better, the metrics are better, the exposure opportunities are better. Something that we learned that's been really positive about having this virtual component is that the reach is ginormous. We can get so many more eyeballs on different types of brand experiences or networking experiences or whatever they are. And I encourage you to just dig deeply into the sponsorship strategy for hybrid, because there are so many ways to measure the value of investing in a brand exposure strategy. So look into that kind of stuff. How many of you did actually record your sessions from hybrid? And how many of you repurposed those in some way? Okay, this is gold. Gold. If you aren't actually repurposing your content to help promote for future events, to provide an on-demand experience for people, on-demand is huge now. Almost every conference that I am attending has this feature. you are throwing out money. You're throwing out sponsorship opportunities, you're throwing out promotional opportunities, engagement opportunities, community building opportunities. Think creatively around how you can repurpose the content that you have as an experience for your audience. And then there's networking. I am not gonna lie to you, networking virtually is not the same. It's not the same. It's a completely different experience being in a room, going to an event, having a glass of wine. It's totally different. But there's still that desire. So what we've seen is that people who are attending virtually don't just want to show up and watch the session. They want to actually be able to network. And going a step further, if it's hybrid, are there opportunities for both audiences to connect? That's really the big question that you want to be asking yourself. And if not, can you create different chat rooms, different board rooms? Can you create different channels for those audiences to have an opportunity to connect? And then registration. How fun has registration been over the past couple of years? Not. Yeah, that is the correct answer. It hasn't been very fun. But I think my really only takeaway for registration is that it's important that you offer people flexibility. When there's uncertainty and people don't know, they can't plan as far down the road because they have no idea what their company's restrictions are going to be, border restrictions are going to be. You have to give them that opportunity to change later on. Not just in canceling, but can they switch to a virtual experience? Or if all of a sudden they can attend, is it easy for them to buy a plane ticket and switch their registration to in-person? So just be thinking about those couple of things. So that is a very, very quick and dirty overview of hybrid events, the lies we tell ourselves, and I hope that this offered a really helpful checklist for you all. So we're gonna have a little Q&A later, and we're gonna talk about some fails, hybrid fails, but for now, that's it. Thank you, everybody.